Dude, baby, we just chilling like ice cream filling, and we are on the mothership counting down the top 100 Atari games of all time. On this video, we're going to hit
countdown number 70 to 61.
Now, I don't want to repeat myself over and over, so if you're confused about who I am and who my partner is, or if you're wondering about the criteria of these video games and how they made the list, please reference the first video. We get into all that. I just want to tell you right now, we're having a blast. I appreciate the feedback. If you agree with the list or disagree with the list, comment. Hey, I'm not Sacro Saint. I ain't the Lord God, but I'm wearing purple.
Since the beginning of time, there's only been one website with the Babylons to claim every game reviewed when it came to the Pro System, and that's Atari7800forever.com.
But now it's time to get on that YouTube trip, babies. And who am I? I'm Funkmaster V, musician, ghost hunter, hat flipper, pro wrestler, comedian, actor, filmmaker, and I'm going to take you on a whirlwind tour of all things cool about Atari and the Atari 7800 with a podcast, news, even new crap. Baby, are you ready to get your groove on? Because it's about to get funky up in here. Skyhammer may be our only game on the list, if I'm not mistaken so far, that was an unreleased prototype. The guys that made Alien vs. Predator for the Jaguar, and spoiler alert, we may see them guys with that game down the road, made this game and it wasn't finished because, hey, the Jaguar was pretty ill-fated. But it was released in 2000 by Songbird Productions, and let me tell you, this is one of the tastiest jams that the Atari Jaguar has kicked out on national public radio. I don't know what I'm saying. But anyway, it's number 70 with a bullet. It's a first-person shooter, but you're in a ship, so there are you move left and right and front and back, but you can also alter your height. And if you have access to the very expensive but very sexy Atari Jaguar Pro controller, you can use shoulder buttons to tip your ship left and right. That's hard to say. It's a shooting game that uses radar, and it's pretty tough. I think the thing that's impressive about this game is how good it looks, how there's not a lot of fog like the Nintendo 64 games of the time, and how it has great music. A lot of people say, hey, if you have a game like this on systems of this generation, you can't have music, or if you have music, you're going to have frame rate problems. There is no frame rate issue on this game. It plays great. It's smooth. In fact, this game's better than a lot of PlayStation games and a lot of Nintendo 64 games. It will set you back a lot of money. So you may want to start doing something on the side, like mowing your neighbor's grass in a thong. Like I said on my review website, Atari7800forever.com, this game, Ninja Golf, encapsulates exactly what video games are supposed to be. Big, stupid fun. A ninja graduating ninja school, and he's got to do 9 holes. 9 holes. Just a little afternoon. Not 18, just 9. 9 holes of Ninja Golf. This premise was so bizarre and interesting that it even inspired a web cartoon around the year 2000 to come out. Wasn't very good, but hey, it was a cartoon. I'd like to have a cartoon of myself. Ooh, maybe not. Let's face it, the Atari 7800 got its butt handed to it by the Nintendo. Then the NES or the Famicom, whatever you want to call it, that just was a game changer, that system and the library of games. And the Atari 7800 did not have a prayer. However, it did garner some attention near the end of its life when it was gasping for breath. It ended up being pretty meaningless, but Ninja Golf was one of those games that people were like, oh, that looks kind of fun. And it is. It's real fun. It's 2 games in one. It's a fighting game. It's about 90% fighting, and it's golf. The golf part of the game really is just to guide your little ninja man through the terrain of the maps. And there's certain terrains you don't want to mess with. Going through the water and dealing with the sharks will kill you. In fact, really what this game is about is survival. People that get really high scores really don't even fight very much. They kind of run like little ninnies, which I don't know, how is that supposed to impress your sensei? And at the end of each hole, you got to fight a dragon, and these progressively get tougher as you go. You got to fight these dragons shinobi style. And after you play Ninja Golf, you'll wish more things in life you could attack shinobi style. This is one of the 7800 Pro Gamers' favorite games, John over there, and so we're throwing that on the list here because I like the guy. But this actually is a really good game. If you're a fan of Space Invaders or Galaga, Phoenix was a game that was released in the arcades in Japan by Taito, not the Jackson 5 brother. We all know the gamer in that family was Jermaine. This game has 5 different unique stages of birds basically crapping on you, or maybe they're shooting you. I'm not sure what in the world's happening, but we're shooting waves of birds. Please don't tell PETA this is happening. They will come and put me in jail. The first couple of waves are pretty boilerplate, standard shoot 'em up fare from this time, 1980. But around level 3, it gets a little funky. You're attacked by giant birds. Now, weirdly enough, if you shoot a wing off of a bird, he just keeps on flying. You can actually shoot both of them off, both wings, off one bird, and he's still unencumbered. But the wings can grow back because science, and, this is a pretty cagey knife fight. There's a lot of bullets flying around. Wave 4, more of the same, except they're red, and red means evil, so watch out. But if you get through the first 4 waves, you get to go to the boss. For a space shooter, there's a lot of variety, some interesting ideas, and a cool boss. So this one definitely deserves a place on the list. If you don't know what Bonk is, that's okay. I'm here to tell you. It's basically just Q*bert. Q*bert has been released for most of the Atari platforms. It was a classic arcade game. But this version was a homebrew by a guy named Ken Siders. Rest in peace. Ken Siders is no longer with us, but he and Bob DeCrescenzo, in the middle of the double aughts, as I call them, really revitalized the homebrew scene for the Atari 7800. And when people say the Atari 7800 is a really cool, underappreciated system, it's because of this homebrew scene. People really didn't care about it back in the 80s and the early 90s, but now people are like, whoa, this machine is awesome. And it is. And Bonk, or Q*bert, is a reason why it is. Q*bert, if you don't know, is a platform jumper where the guy's got to change the colors of the cubes by jumping on them while evading obstacles. There's some really cool escape routes to the left and right. He can jump on these flying disco discs, and it takes him to the top and wipes out all the bad guys, and he can keep rolling. As the levels progress, changing the cube colors may be a little bit more difficult as they throw a little wrench. But in this version of the game, for a home system especially, it does a great job explaining what the game expects you to do to clear the levels with some really cool cutscenes. The sound is great, the graphics are good, the gameplay is fast, and it even gives you options on how to handle the joystick. Because if you've ever played Q*bert before, you don't control it up, down, left, and right. You control it at the diagonals. And with a traditional joystick, especially a 2600 one, that could be a little confusing, so it holds your hand there too. Hey, old ladies in the audience, this is a great game. Give my friend Q*bert a pass. He's got a language problem. He's working on it. He's from, he's from where I'm from. He's seen some things. I told you you'd see Alien vs. Predator on this list sooner than later. And here we are. Alien vs. Predator was the killer app for the Atari Jaguar, and it probably, if the Atari Jaguar made money for Atari, which I don't know if it did, it probably was because of this game and maybe one other. But Alien vs. Predator got a lot of magazine press. Back in the day, kids, magazines were a big deal with video games before the internet. Everybody loved it. It's basically Doom in an Alien vs. Predator paint job. But the real trick of this game is that you could play either the alien or the predator, or you could play the marine. Yeah, you're like, the marine? Well, I guess they couldn't afford to get Carl Weathers or Jesse the Body Ventura or Arnold Schwarzenegger for this game. So you get a generic marine. 3D games from this era, they don't play well now. They were kind of a step in the right direction and nobody really knew how to program it. And eventually you kind of lose your nostalgia, and 2D games seem to age better. But these Doom games still are pretty fun to play today, and so is Alien vs. Predator. If you choose to play an alien, a predator, or a marine, your gameplay changes and your missions change. That's one of the coolest attributes about this. Yes, it's a fine Doom game, but the ability to kind of change your experience with the title is what makes this game really unique. I've already received some heat for putting Pitfall on this list too low. I've gotten emails, I've had YouTube comments, and I want to tell those people who are my faithful listeners and viewers, you will be receiving a box full of dog shoe at your place of residence this week. Enjoy. I hope it's rank. Now, with all seriousness, I understand why people are a little confused at why something like Pitfall would be that low. But let me direct your attention to Circus Convoy. And weirdly enough, it's made by Gary Kitchen from Keystone Capers, hello, already on the list, and David Crane, already on the list with Pitfall. And they combined their forces, worked on this game for about 3 years in secret, and released this independently a few years ago. So this is a modern release homebrew that takes Pitfall and Keystone Capers and kicks them in the taint. This is a much better game. It's kind of like what Raiders of the Lost Ark should have been with the inventory screen and what Pitfall wished it was. You take the role of a strong man. Hello. He is running all over the place on these convoys. If you remember these 70s movies with these truck drivers, it just cracks me. I don't know, something just tickled me in my head. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I just thought of like BJ and the Bear, Smokey and the Bandit. But instead of, getting on your cell phone and saying, can we stop the convoy? There's a saboteur here that's trying to blow up the trucks. He decides, I guess, they're late or something. He's just going to run around on these trucks, jumping from truck to truck, trying to find the saboteur. Now, the interesting thing is, even though you really only go left and right, each trailer has like secrets inside, or I'd say most, and you're trying to find all these items, and there's crazy items. There's a gun, there's a flaming skull, there's a burger, binoculars, bricks, parachutes, something from your mom's dresser that we don't talk about in public. I mean, there's all sorts of things to find, and when you find a particular item, you can access new areas, and eventually you're trying to find the saboteur. For people who are frightened of clowns, there are very few clowns on this game, so you don't have to you can turn the light off. Things will be safe. But if you're looking for an adventure on the Atari 2600, dude, I don't know if there's a better one out there. The Atari 5200 is chiming back in with Rescue on Fractalus. I can't yell it because there's people sleeping in the house right now, but I'd like to yell Fractalus because there's an exclamation point there. This game at the time, oh my god, it was amazing. Check out the scrolling mountains. I don't even know how they program stuff like that. It was really cool. And this is a unique game. It's kind of like a reverse Defender, if you will. You know how Defender, you're shooting a bunch of bad guys in space, and you're rescuing people who are dropping down to Earth. This is kind of like the people landed on the planet, and you're going by scooping them up. The terrain is unique and adventurous, and you're like, ooh, what's behind there? Ooh, it's like going, like the Russell chocolates, and you're sitting there going, hey, where's the one with the orange cream filling? And you bite into it, and it's got like a nasty cherry syrup. That's kind of what this is. You're just searching around, looking around every nook and cranny of these mountains, trying to find these downed pilots. Speaking of the nasty cherry goo that comes out of some of these chocolates, there is a surprise sometimes. When you find a pilot, he will run up to you and knock on the door. Come in. And sometimes when you open the door, there's a frickin' alien standing there. Holy crap. I know a lot of people, the first time they about peed their pants or fell on the floor was not with something like Resident Evil or Silent Hill. It was Rescue on Fractalus, where they open the door expecting to see a dorky, chubby pilot with a beer gut, and it's actually an alien with a mean expression and an intent to hurt you. If you're a fan of games like Mario Party or WarioWare Smooth Moves or Nintendo Remix or even Atari Mania, you may need to tip your fedora to Epix. Epix was one of the first companies that would put together these mini game compilations. And the cool thing about what they did is they kind of put a paint job on it. There was a lot of Olympics type games they released for computer systems from all over. Winter games, summer games, stuff like that. But to me and to John, I think California Games was the best only because each game is fun. There was a version released for the Lynx, which is very good. It was one of their launch titles. But this version's better because it's so surprising. The first game is hacky sack, and you would think that would suck big old butt, but it's really fun. And you get points for doing tricks, spinning around, acting like a lunatic, doing hijinks, kick flips, all that stuff. And then you've got skateboarding on a half pipe next to the Hollywood sign. So cool. Look at those graphics for that. They didn't have to do all that for me. But my favorite personally was the BMX downhill obstacle course, which I think this idea for this event kind of predated the X Games. I don't think this was really an event that people can medal in places like they do now, but that game is great. It's actually, that game would be fun on its own. And then finally, California Games ends with surfing, which may be the least fun, but still pretty good and impressive with the colors. I also like how you can pick to represent a brand instead of a country. Winter games, summer games, you'd pick either Russia or Japan or the United States, and if you picked Russia, you were put on a special list. But here you can pick between Ocean Pacific or Epix, or Jet Ski, Delmar, or Casio. Remember those watches? Do you still have one of those watches? Do you have a girlfriend? Because if you want a girlfriend, Casio watch boy, you may want to try calling up the queen of the arcades. It's Miss Pac-Man. Now, Miss Pac-Man's been ported all over the place. Everybody knows it's a vast improvement over Pac-Man. It got girls in the arcades playing video games. Because I don't want to say nothing. Don't tell them I said this. But it's, instead of about shooting aliens, it was about eating food. All right, let's just be honest here. This was a launch title for the Atari 7800, one of the better games for the system through its lifespan. But what I think makes Miss Pac-Man even more interesting is what it means today and what it especially meant to the Atari 7800 fan base in the double lots. You see, the Atari 7800 is getting a lot of momentum right now, and one of the reasons is because it was really an underappreciated system. It was technologically great, it was superior to the Nintendo and the Sega Master System in some ways, and people are now exploiting that through the homebrew or hobby programmer market. Basically, people are just doing it in the basements of their homes, making all these games. Now, Miss Pac-Man was great, except for maybe the sound wasn't terrific, but we all know why. That's because of the TIA chip. But everything else about the game was great. But the hobby programming scene took to this game because there was really no documentation in the double lots when the scene started to hit on how to make an Atari 7800 game. So what they did is they took games like Miss Pac-Man specifically and tweaked it. They would start changing sprites, like they would take Miss Pac-Man out of the game and they would add Freddy Krueger running around a bunch of red crosses with Jason's running around the screen. Or they would take Miss Pac-Man out and replace it with a French cartoon animal. You could do it with anything that you could render. And it was a way for these people to learn. It was an excellently programmed game, and it helped Bob DeCrescenzo come up with graphical hacks, things like Haggly Man and Crazy Otto. But it started to morph into bigger and better games like Super Pac-Man, Baby Pac-Man, the Pinball Hybrid, the Pac-Man Collection, which was available at Atari Age, and even Junior Pac-Man. See, this was the building blocks to the homebrew scene that you see at the 7800 today. And yes, we could talk about what Miss Pac-Man meant at the arcades. I think everybody here watching it knows. But this was the cornerstone of a delicious breakfast and also the bustling Atari 7800 homebrew scene. Normally when you see a combination of a bunch of different ideas, like we're going to do a horror, comedy, science fiction movie, or actually we are doing that. Geez, maybe I should listen to my own warning. But normally when you combine a bunch of these types of things, like we're going to have Korean fusion barbecue, well, that's actually good too. Maybe fusion is good, but most of the time in video games, it's not good. Normally when you try to combine a bunch of different genres, it normally is a disaster, or part of the game is good and the other part of the game kind of sucks. Well, with Major Havoc, depending on your tastes, that may be true. This game was a weird one all the way around. It was a title that somebody at Atari said, you know what, let's make a platformer that you control with a spinner. Yeah, that's right, you control this game. There's no joysticks at all, and there's no trackball. It's just a spinner. And they want you to go left and right and up and down using something that just goes, two-dimensional. Combine that with shooting mechanics, navigation mechanics. There's a lander part of this game and even a little tiny breakout game in this. It sounds like this would be just an utter disaster. The color vector graphics were a little antiquated at this point. The game wasn't approachable, wasn't easy to understand, nothing really made sense, and it was difficult. However, if you give Major Havoc time, and you're playing it on a system that really lends itself to the spinner control, it ends up being a crazy amalgamation of fun. Major Havoc, I will give it credit for this too, is the only game that I know of, at least on the tip of my brains, that actually makes sense about the multiple man roster of spare humans or monsters you have during these arcade games, because you get 3 lives, right? Well, if you die once, how you still playing the game? You're supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be talking to St. Peter and apologizing about puberty in middle school. But Major Havoc says these guys are clones. And so, yeah, that makes sense. Hey, these guys are just getting fried and flipped and blown up and crashing. Hey, send another clone out there. The clone may not like it, but we like it because we're trying to defeat the evil of the universe. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. Tell us. Did we miss something? Did we get something wrong? Do you hate this list? Are you getting freaked out that your favorite game's not on the list yet? Please put in the comments what you think. And if we missed something, let us know. We want to know. Also, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notify bell so you know when the next video counting down the top 100 is. You don't want to miss one. All the cool kids are going to be talking about it for years to come. I want to thank Jon Stoll over at the Atari Network, and I want to put his channel in the description. And also, don't forget, check out my website, Atari7800forever.com, and also go to bigandfunkyproductions.com. We make movies. Right now, it's Halloween. We're making horror movies. We've made horror movies. Check those out. The Hike, WJHCAM, and Camp Smokey. Plus, we do all sorts of other types of TV. We got a brand new show called Weird Roads, a new episode of Wrestling with Ghosts. Just go check it out. You'll be entertained for years to come. All right, make sure you stay tuned to this channel so you can see what we crown the top 100 Atari games of all time.